Well, good morning and welcome to Christ Table. My name is Kevin. I have the privilege of serving here at Christ Table as lead clergy. So glad that you're here with us this morning. If you'd like to find out more about Christ Table, who we are, what we do, who we are here for primarily, then you can visit the URL that is right there below me, www.christtable.today. Sign up for the email list there. And in a nutshell, Christ Table is here for those who are disconnected, disillusioned, disappointed, or even done with the church. Now, I will say as well that for those who that may not describe you, you are still welcome here at Christ Table, and we are grateful for you being here and being a part of what we do, no matter where you are on your faith journey, moving, not moving, have a faith journey, don't have a faith journey, maybe once did, walking away, questioning, wherever you may be. We hope that you find home here and that you find safe space here to wrestle with questions about faith and about spirituality with no strings attached. NSA. Wherever you end up, if you end up inside another journey, another pilgrimage towards faith or towards Christ, that's great. But if you end up deciding that there's too much trauma or you just can't right now, that's okay as well. I'm not here to define where your journey goes, what it looks like, the steps that you take. We're here to make sure that you understand that you are not alone on that journey, wherever it takes you. We usually start out a few minutes before the official beginning of the gathering, just to give everybody time to get here, make sure that all the tech is working, and to give some community time. We usually ask a question as well, so I'll go ahead and put that up here on the screen on this amazing, rather chilly in most of the U.S. Sunday morning, if you're watching live, wherever you are. Question for today is, I don't think I've ever asked this question. We've been doing this for over 5 years now, 5.5 years, and we try not to ask the same question ever, but occasionally, there are similar questions, especially when it's seasonal, sports, Christmas, 4th of July, but I don't believe that this is one that I've ever asked before. What is your favorite room in the house? And I hope that whenever you watch this, whether you're watching live or whether you're participating with us by delay at some other point, even days, weeks, months, or years down the road, that you'll still answer this question. I'll still get a notification whenever you're watching this. And I'd love for everybody to answer this question. What is your favorite room in the house? I am so excited to hear the answers to this. And if you can't narrow it down to one, that's absolutely okay. Feel free to list maybe your top 2, your top 3. If you need to order them or prioritize them, then that's great as well. But I'm interested, what is your favorite room in the house? And I have a feeling that we're going to get some unique and different and surprising answers here to this one. So that's the question. What is your favorite room in the house? I will say too that I know that I said this in the beginning, that if you are maybe not in religious trauma necessarily and are a person of faith, in Christ Table is your regular faith gathering. We really appreciate that, and we appreciate those who partner with us in generosity and charity and in giving. And so if you would like to do that or consider that, go.christtable.today/give. It takes a lot of resources to maintain the technology, to be able to get the streaming airtime, and to continue to maintain websites, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so if you are able to give generously to charity work, we would appreciate it if you would make us a consideration in that list of places in which you are a part of. It's completely tax deductible. You can give online safely, securely, and whenever we do Bible studies and give resources, you'll always receive them just for free out of thankfulness for your partnership with us regularly. So I'll put that question up. I know that, looking over here at the timer, I know I'm out of time, which, I have a tendency to be able to talk. I guess that's gift or curse. But what's your favorite room in the house? And I guess we'll go ahead and jump into the gathering. We've got a great one planned for you this morning. Very excited about where we go. So welcome to Christ Table. I'm glad that you're here. So if you were here with us last week, you know that we have been kind of continuing on after Easter. We're working towards in the church calendar the ascension of Jesus, and that is coming up here in just a few days, whenever we celebrate that. And we've been diving into some of Jesus' teachings, especially some of his teachings post resurrection. And last week we talked a little bit about some of Jesus' teachings about sheep and the gate and thieves and full life. And if you saw last week, or if you were a part of last week, then this is kind of a continuation of that. We're picking up that topic just a few verses later as Jesus is continuing to give some of these final thoughts and final words to his followers. And I tell you, I've mentioned this before. I've put up pictures like this before, but maybe you do this as I'm thinking about religious trauma and church trauma. A lot of times for many of us, that comes from youth, and it can be very difficult, as difficult or maybe more difficult for us to process and move past family trauma. It usually takes a lot of therapy and a lot of time and a lot of professional help to be able to do that. And that can go for church trauma as well. Religious trauma is deeply insidious and sometimes surprising how many decades afterwards it can continue to kind of make our journey in life difficult. So this over here, this is I have a family of origin. This is my church family of origin, Connorsville Baptist Temple. It came to mind this week because I had some people who were asking me, where are you from? How did you grow up? And it's almost impossible for me to tell the story of my origin story. It's almost impossible for me to tell that story without also telling the story about my religious faith and the place in which I grew up, because I probably spent more time on this property than I did in my own house, truth be told. A lot of time was spent here in school, in church activities. Once my dad became a deacon and a Sunday school teacher, and mom became a church secretary, there were lots of nights and daytimes that were spent here as well. And frankly, a lot of my trauma and the way that I view, the lens that I view religion through, comes for better or worse from this space and the people who were involved in this space. And maybe that goes for you as well. And one of the things that I personally wrestle with a lot, I don't know if this describes you, if you have religious trauma, or if you've been in religious spaces in your youth, but one of the things that continues to kind of be something that I wrestle with is this tension between an inclusive gospel and an exclusive gospel. I would say that both of those probably describe the gospel that I was taught growing up, but it was exclusive in that it did not allow people in who were unlike us, even in belief, even other people who had the label of, if you noticed it, Baptist. Even most other Baptists were excluded from our gospel. And so it was inclusive, but it was only inclusive if you pretty much looked, acted, behaved, believed, belonged like us. Now, I don't want to assume, this is even a hard word for me, gospel. I don't want to assume that you understand what the word gospel means, but the word gospel, which you probably have heard a lot, translates to, and I probably could do a little quiz here in the comments and in the chat to see, who knows, but that's not one of those things that's important for you to know. So I'll just go ahead and change it. Inclusive versus exclusive good news. So gospel is a word that quite literally means good news. And so the message and the story of Jesus is intended, from what the Bible says, to be good news. And so there's this tension in that what I was taught was that the exclusivity of the good news was good news, that the exclusivity of Jesus and of the church and of the Bible was good news, and that inclusivity was not good news. But I think to most of us, especially as we mature, are people who are outside of our kind of boundaried, legalistic, fundamental thinking, might say that exclusivity, or that kind of deep exclusivity, is not so much good news. We would have said inclusivity is not good news. And so I put good news in quotes because I think that there is a question as to whether or not the things that we believe and whether or not the things that we teach are actually good news. Good news to what Jesus would have intended the good news to be, and maybe good news as to what we perceive as being good news. What do I mean by that? Well, quite simply, if the news that we are giving to others isn't good, then I question whether or not it's really from Jesus. You know, growing up, my church of origin, my religious community of origin, labeled a lot of things as good news that wasn't necessarily good news, I think. At least not to hearers. And, you know, I think of hell, eternal damnation, the need for men to cut their hair and women to wear long skirts, for there to be a requirement that you leave church feeling bad or guilty or shameful rather than renewed, restored, or hopeful. And I could go on and on and on, but you have your list as well of things probably that religion has said to you was good news, but it didn't really feel, seem, or hear, or it didn't cross your ears as being good news or being good. And so, you know, I wonder whether or not that was really from Jesus. Jesus has a lot to say about that, and I would suggest that a lot of the things that we teach about Jesus, maybe we teach them as good news, and they're not necessarily good news. Maybe we're wrong sometimes about what is good and what isn't good. When we come to our text today, I think that that's probably going to be something that we need to keep in mind. This is a text that lots of churches are teaching on today, and so I haven't specifically pulled out this text. This is just the lectionary, the church calendar text. And some of these words may be familiar to some of you. John 14, don't let your hearts be troubled. Now, this is Jesus. Oh, Sunday morning. Sorry about it. These words are from Jesus. Don't let your hearts be troubled. And I mean, just even there, I'm beginning to think, it seemed as though my Church of Origin's goal, and many Christians' goal today, is to make my heart troubled. But Jesus is here saying, don't let your hearts be troubled. So there's a disconnect there. Which is it? Is it the way that the religious folk today, the evangelicals or the Christian nationalists or the Baptists or the Reformed or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, you know, is it that your heart should be troubled, that your heart should feel shameful, that your heart should feel guilty, that your heart should feel, you know, bad? Or is it what Jesus says here? Don't let your hearts be troubled. Trust in God and trust also in me. There is more than enough room in my Father's home, or maybe you've heard it, in my Father's house there are many mansions, or many rooms in my Father's house. If it weren't so, then I would have told you that I'm going to prepare a place for you. I think that this is one of the things that we miss, or that we don't think about, that line, that idea, in my Father's house, there are many rooms. And if I'm thinking about my church of origin, I put this picture up, but this is a building that is made up of dozens and dozens of rooms. Each one of those rooms were different, and each one of those rooms had different types of people in them. So I might say that even though we taught an exclusive gospel, an exclusive good news, there were ways in which we tried to include many different types of people, not just adults, but seniors and youth and those with cognitive learning disabilities. We had a phenomenal program and inclusion with people who had that a lot of other churches were kind of ignoring or avoiding. And I give, my church of origin a lot of props, for doing that. We had a place for babies, one of my favorite rooms, the 2-year-olds, one of my favorite rooms, mostly because they had the best toys in the entire facility. And so under this large facility, there were a lot of different rooms that had been built. So a lot of different life stages, life places, different kinds of people were able to be housed there together and still feel as though they were a part of the good news, even though they might have been unique or different than the majority of the church. So as I think about that and I come back to the text, I think that that's an important lens for me, at least, and maybe it is for all of us as we continue to read. Jesus says, when all of this in heaven and the afterlife is ready for you, then I will come and get you so that you will always be there where I am, with me where I am, and you will know the way to where I'm going. You're going to know how to get there. And I love, as we've said over the last few weeks, I love Thomas, because Thomas is always speaking out what everybody else is thinking. No, we don't know, Lord. We have absolutely no idea the way to get to where you're going. This sounds very exclusive, Thomas says, but you're making it sound very inclusive, and we kind of feel excluded because we don't know how to get there. We have no idea where to go or how to get to where you're going, or where it is you're going. So how can we know the way? And this is one of those classic lines, one that if I heard it once, I heard it every single time that somebody was standing behind the pulpit. I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one can come to the Father, to God, except through me. And if you had really known me, you would have known who my Father is. But from now on, you do know, and you have seen him. And this verse, I have a lot of religious trauma surrounding this verse. There's a fair amount of shame and guilt surrounding this verse. I don't know about the religious context that you grew up in or that you were a part of, but this verse, oftentimes, especially if you're skewing more fundamentalist, more legalistic, more rules based, than grace based, then this verse is going to come up a lot. I'm the way, the truth, and life, and no one can come to the Father through me. And it was taught to me in a very exclusive way. It very much was used to narrow the funnel as to who was in and who was out. And I'll say on the surface, it certainly does seem that way. But one of the things that I have been taught as I have matured and grown up is to always look and pay attention to context. What verses come before, what verses come after, who is the book or the letter that it's in written to, what is the point and the purpose of that, what is the audience expecting, what would the first readers and hearers, those whom it was written to, what would they have seen, what would they have heard, and to begin to broaden out our perspective to make sure that we're not just pulling one verse out and making it say something that maybe the context that it sits in is not at all saying, or might even be saying something different. And whenever we come to the words of Jesus and we imply that Jesus is exclusive rather than inclusive, we darn well better make sure that we're getting the context right, because generally Jesus seems like a very inclusive individual rather than a very exclusive individual. So let's move on. Philip says, Lord, show us the Father and we will be satisfied. Teach us about these things. Show us God. Give us a way to believe that all of these things are going to come true and we will calm down. And Jesus says, I've been with you all this time, Philip, and yet you still don't know who I am. You still don't know what I'm doing. Anyone who has seen me has seen God. Anybody who knows me knows God. Anyone who knows the things that I teach knows the things that God believes and works the world and its systems around. So why are you asking me to see God? You see me. Don't you believe that I'm the Father and the Father is in me? The words that I speak are not my own, but my Father who lives in me does his work through me. Just believe. Just believe that I'm in the Father and the Father is in me, or at least believe because of the work that you've seen me do in this work. Believe. Don't you believe? You should believe this. These are the things that you're supposed to believe. It was always like this list of things. Believe, just believe. Place your belief in Jesus. Do you believe in Jesus? Believe, 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 believe. And so we see this word just in this short text here, right? Like 3 times. Believe, believe, believe. And in English, where we are today, we see the word believe and we think mind. We think assent. Like I give my assent to something, or I give my belief or knowledge, or I see something as being what I place my belief in. And so we see this and we quantify faith or quantify religion and think of it as being things that I ascribe to, a list of beliefs. But again, remember I said context and making sure that we know what things meant whenever they were written and what the original hearers would have heard. The word believe has changed and shifted some through the centuries. And in English, the definition of believe that I just gave you is perfectly correct. But that was not what the original hearers would have thought when they heard the word believe. They would have heard the word trust. Not something that is really mind directed, but something that is more heart directed. Jesus saying, don't you trust that I'm in the Father and the Father is me, and the words that I speak are not my own, but my Father who lives in me does his work through me. Just trust that I'm in the Father and the Father is in me, or at least trust because of the work that you have seen me do. So what are the difference between these two words? You might be able to give definitions differently, but why does it matter here in what we're talking about, inclusivity versus exclusivity of good news? Well, believe, don't you believe that I'm in the Father? Just believe that I'm God. Just believe in the work that you've seen me do. These are all things that I do. I have a choice whether or not to believe. I might get the things that I believe in wrong. The list, if I have 10 things I believe in, 9 things might be right, but what if one of those things are wrong? Does that mean I don't fully believe, that I'm not fully in? It's a very exclusive word because it requires a very boundaried answer. Just believe. The word trust is not me-centered. The word trust is Jesus-centered. Don't you trust in me? Just trust that I am this, or at least trust because of the work that you've seen me do. Believe puts all of the responsibility on me to get all of it right and correct, exclusively perfect. Trust is a very inclusive word, and that allows me to say, it's not about me, it's about Jesus. It's not about me getting it right. It's about the fact that he has to get it right. It's not about the fact that I have to be perfect, but I can trust that he's perfect. I am not the center, he is. In belief, I'm the center. In trust, something else or someone else is the center. This is why we have to pay attention to context. That's why we have to pay attention to words and definitions so that we don't get off center. Why does this matter? Well, when we're talking about an exclusive faith, one where I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life, and we interpret that as a very exclusive statement, we have to step back from that and say, but there are very inclusive statements that are given along the way. And what do we do with that inclusive versus exclusive differences here? So let's go back to where we began. Don't let your hearts be troubled. All of these things that I've been talking about, inclusivity and exclusivity and belief and getting things right, getting things wrong, the question of hell, eternal conscious torment, damnation, whether or not the way that we behave determines whether or not we get to belong. All of these things are things that Jesus' hearers then and even now struggle with. And I love that this text begins with, don't let yourself feel trauma. Don't let your hearts be troubled. Trust. Trust that God's got this. Trust that I've got this. Okay, so what do I trust? Jesus, what do you got? You know, where's the faith that you want me to have so that I won't be troubled? And then there's this line, right? There is more than enough room in my Father's house. In my Father's house are many mansions, or in my Father's house there are many rooms. And whenever this was taught to me as a child, this was taught to me in a way that was inclusive, like there's room enough for more, there's room enough for you, but it was taught in a very exclusive way, that there was lots of room, but only if you believed certain things. Well, we've already taken that off the table, right? That Jesus isn't asking us for belief. Jesus is asking us for trust. And that's a very finite difference, but it is a very key and important distinction between the two. So the other thing is, though, is that I don't know here, the language that we use matters a lot. You know, is it mansions? Is it rooms? What is it? Well, quite literally, the text says here, in my Father's house, there are many dwellings. And I want to pause for just a moment about that word dwellings, because it gives it a different shade. It gives a different color. It gives a different vibrancy to this idea of mansions, to this idea of rooms or dwellings. What do I mean by that? Well, if we're talking about inclusivity versus exclusivity, mansions seems very exclusive, right? You hear the word mansion, you think exclusive. You think walls, you think gates, you think lots of money, you think a very small number of people are going to be there. And yeah, it may have many rooms in that mansion, but it is still a mansion, and there is security that keeps people out. If you think of rooms, you might think of rooms in a hotel. You might think of rooms in your house. But all of the people who stay in your house are almost always like you. They may be like you because they're your family, your children, your parents, your grandparents. Visitors who come and stay are oftentimes family, or their friends who many times are like you. They think like you, act like you, look like you, right? Rooms. But dwellings implies that there are people living together or in proximity to each other who are not always exactly alike. Like in my city, there are many mansions. Those mansions are exclusive, and they pretty much all look the same. They are big. They are similar. Rooms, all the same in a house. They all typically tend to look the same. But dwellings, in my city, there are many dwellings, and there are, I see out my window here, there are condos and high rises and skyscrapers and apartments. There is low income housing, middle income housing, high income housing. The houses look very different from each other. The dwellings look very different from each other, but they all are in the same proximity to each other. So when we talk about dwellings, the definition for dwellings is abodes or habitations or accommodations, or I love this one, safe spaces. Not everyone's abode is the same. Not everyone's habitation is the same. Not everyone's safe space is the same, especially when we talk about the whole world. Houses and abodes look different. People, habitats are different. Their accommodations are different. They are born, raised, mature, and die in contexts that are very different than my own, in dwellings that are very different than my own. So you may say, okay, PK, what's the point here? What are you getting at? Okay, so back to this image. You may say, yeah, when I put this up the first time, everybody who goes to that church, though, was like you. It was exclusive. They were all probably white. They were all probably middle class. They all believed the same thing. They all believed in Jesus, but they didn't necessarily get outside the boundaries of that. You yourself said that, yeah, it was Baptist, but even other Baptists weren't considered a part of you. Okay, yes, true. But also when you think about it, I want you to think, though, that even in this space, there were people who were a part of it who did not believe in the same way. People with cognitive disabilities aren't going to be able to give mental assent or belief, oftentimes, maybe fully in the same way that one of the adults would have been able to do so. But they were still welcomed in to our dwelling, had a dwelling of their own, with allowance for differences. Babies don't believe, but we made allowances for their differences, their inability to give assent. And we even created this, the Bible does not say this, but we even created this loophole where until you could give mental assent, until you could believe, then God allowed you in and let you in. We created loopholes for people who were like us because we did not want to exclude them. And so we went so far even to create dwellings inside of our house, Baptist Temple, for babies who did not and could not believe because we loved them. We created dwellings for people inside of our mansion, inside of our house, for people with cognitive disabilities who could not fully believe because of differences what we did, but we created this loophole where God understood and allowed and looked the other way and accepted and included them in the gospel and the good news. We did that too with seniors and with youth and with children and with adults who were on the margins or who had beliefs that maybe didn't align fully with us, but whom we chose to love and include rather than exclude. There were many dwellings. And all those dwellings had people of difference and people who maybe our theology would have said were excluded, but we made a decision to include. Whenever I think about the good news, I'm reminded of that church and how that church taught an exclusive gospel, but practiced in many ways a very inclusive gospel by recognizing the truth that Jesus wants all to come to him. And we made ways to include those people whom we loved, even if they did not believe the way that we believed, or even know who Jesus was. Think about that. People who did not know who Jesus was, who had never gotten saved, who our theology would have said were excluded, babies, we said were included. People with cognitive disabilities, some of them profound disabilities that disallowed them from understanding or knowing the belief systems that we said were required. But we still created a dwelling for them and allowed them to be on the inside and created a loophole in our theology that said God will love them and God will accept them and God does love them and God does accept them and they are no different than us. And in their differences, though, we refuse to see any difference in God's love for them. Whenever Jesus is teaching about dwellings here and talking about being the way, the truth, and the life, in context, we have to say and affirm that this is what Jesus always taught, was an inclusive good news that was far less, if at all, about belief and assent to a doctrinal statement than it was this idea that all shall be saved. You say all shall be saved. No. That's way too far. But is it? Because in this same context of verses, just a few verses before, Jesus makes this statement, and other sheep I have, which are not of this fold, them also I must bring, and they shall hear my voice. I don't know what my Church of Origin does with that. I mean, I know what they do with that. You essentially have to change the meaning, the very clear meaning of this to mean something that it very clearly does not mean. You have to make this a statement of exclusivity, that there are sheep which are not of this fold, that, you know, I'm going to try to, you have to create loopholes, not just to let people in, but you have to create loopholes to keep people out whenever you're trying to hold to a belief system that is not true. You got to create loopholes on both sides. on both the inclusive side and the exclusive side, rather than just saying, you know what? Maybe Jesus' gospel has always been inclusive, not exclusive. And maybe it's not at all about kicking people out and refusing them into our dwellings and the hospitality, but maybe there's enough space, maybe there's enough room, maybe everybody, no matter where they dwell, gets to be included. Where they dwell nationally, where they dwell politically, where they dwell denominationally, where they dwell religious belief system, that all shall be saved. Jesus very clearly tells his followers who are trying to limit who's in, other sheep I have, which are not of this fold, but them I also must bring, and they shall hear my voice. If it's not inclusive of all dwellings, it's not good news, and it's not the gospel.
That he
Before we go today, I'd love to celebrate communion with you in just a moment. So if you have not already done so, our practice here is to grab something nearby. If it's bread, wine, grape juice, that's great. But also anything at all will be fine for communion, something to eat, something to drink. And we also want to spend a moment or two in prayer. So if you have anything that's weighing on you heavily, then we want to stand with you in those things, sit with you in the difficulties. So in the comments or the chat, wherever you're watching, you can put that request in there. If it's too personal or too long, you can always just put, please pray for me, or you can send it to us privately, and we will and do pray for those. At the end of this short prayer, we will put the words to the Lord's Prayer on the screen, and we invite you to pray those words aloud wherever you are with us together. I'll see the prayer requests as they come up here. And also, even if you're not watching live, I get notified of those. So let's pray. Lord, this morning we come to you just pausing to reflect, to yield, to grieve, to celebrate, to question, to feel, to let go, to take hold. So many things happen in the days and in the months and the years as they march on that can be difficult to understand, that can be difficult to let go of, that can be difficult sometimes to fit into the context of our faith. And so I pray that whatever we are carrying, or struggling with, or collapsing under, that the word trust would be something that we feel not just in our heads, but something that we feel you have placed directly into our hearts. Give us a renewed ability to trust in the ups and the downs, the difficulties and the unknowns. And I would pray, Lord, also give us reason to trust. Faith can be hard when things are fully unseen, and trust can be difficult when we feel as though we have tried and you have failed. So Lord, hear our prayer. For those who are hurting, struggling, hear our prayer. For those who have financial difficulties, relational problems, mental health struggles, Lord, hear our prayer. For those who are fearful, who have medical issues, who have suffered loss, Lord, hear our prayer. And as our act of hope and faith, we together in this moment pray the words of the prayer that you gave to us. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen. Well, before we go, like I said, I'd love to celebrate communion with you. Hopefully you've got something to eat, something to drink. In the comments or the chat, wherever you're watching, let me know what you're using for communion. I love to see what you're using. For me this morning, it is water and a miniature cow tail. So that's what I'm using. That's what I had on hand this morning for communion. And I got to tell you, that probably very little makes me feel closer, to God than a cow tail. Those things are awesome. And if you're not sure whether or not you should participate in communion, okay? I know that many churches, many priests, pastors, denominations exclude people from communion. And I gotta say, It's not their table. They don't get to exclude or decide who to include at that table. It's not my table. I don't get to decide. No pastor or priest gets to decide who is included and who is excluded from the table. It's Christ's table. He decides. And Christ included Judas at his table while he was actually in the act of betrayal that very moment, that night. So you're good. You're welcome at Christ's table. You're welcome in his dwelling. On the night that Jesus was betrayed, tortured, and ultimately executed, he did share a meal with his friends. And at that meal, he took some bread from the table, and breaking it, he gave it to his disciples, and he said, "Take and eat this, for this is my body, which is given for you. As often as you eat this, remember me." So we remember Christ's inclusion. Remember his love that went beyond boundaries. We remember the multitude of times where he said, "Just simply trust me. I'm going to get things ready for you. You're in. This do in remembrance of me." And then the text tells us that at the end of the meal, he took the cup that was on the table and he passed it around to all of his disciples, and he said, "Drink all of this. For this cup is a new covenant, a new agreement between God and you for the forgiveness of sins. As often as you drink from this cup, remember me." And so this, as we often say, is the cup of forgiveness. It's a reminder every week when we drink this to forgive ourselves, that God has already forgiven us, that there is no reason to exclude ourselves from his people or from his love or from his best future. So this we drink forgiveness in remembrance of him. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May God's face radiate with joy because of you and bring you peace. And may the peace of Jesus Christ go with you wherever he may send you. May he guide you through the wilderness, protect you through the storms. May he bring you home rejoicing at all of the wonders that he has shown you. May he bring you home rejoicing once again soon into our doors. It's been good to be with you this week. I hope that this week you will remember the inclusive love of Jesus. Maybe consider who we've excluded and work to change that. God bless. Have a great week.